sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are going to do a deep dive into the Chiefs' victory over the Texans in the divisional round.
Big game.
Big game. And we've got a couple of game summaries here to look at, one from each side, so we can really see kind of how this game unfolded from both perspectives.
Should be interesting.
Yeah. And it was a wild one. I mean, we're talking Patrick Mahomes making history, Travis Kelce, he's shattering records.
Oh, yeah.
And even some unexpected struggles, I think, for both these teams.
Right away. You see how both sides are trying to tell the story, right?
Yeah.
So the Chiefs, obviously, highlighting their dominance, right? This is their 7th straight AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I mean, 7th straight. Is that like some kind of record or something? I mean, that's got to be up there.
I mean, you're talking about dynasty territory there when you have that level of consistency. I mean, very few teams have ever done that. And, of course, you've got Andy Reid. He wins his 300th game, adds to his already legendary status. But the thing is, it wasn't a cakewalk. I mean, the Texans, they came to play.
They did.
They really did.
And you can't talk about this game without talking about Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
He's now 7-0 in divisional round games.
7-0. I mean, it's crazy.
It's insane.
It's getting to the point where it's almost unfair.
I know.
And, you know, we got to talk about that touchdown pass to Kelce, where he's practically falling down when he throws it.
Oh, I saw that. That was amazing. Just the trust.
Right. I mean, that's their connection, that chemistry. You see Mahomes extending the play. You know, he can see downfield. He can see everything. And then Kelce finding that open seam, even when it looks like there's nothing there. It's incredible. It's incredible to watch. But, you know, there's another side to the story here.
Okay, what's that?
Well, you know, the Chiefs' offensive line, they had a rough day.
Oh, yeah.
Mahomes was sacked more in this game than any other game this season.
Really? I didn't realize it was that bad.
It was a career high in sacks allowed. And, you know, some of that you could say is due to the Texans' defense, right? They were blitzing a lot trying to get to Mahomes.
Sure.
But, you know, it also raises some questions about the Chiefs' O-line. I mean, is this a weakness? Is this something that other teams could exploit?
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on, you know, especially with the AFC Championship game coming up. But speaking of things to keep an eye on, Travis Kelce, man, he was just unstoppable.
He was. He was the best player on the field.
Yeah.
By far. He broke the record for most 100-yard receiving games by a tight end in the playoffs.
Wow.
9 games.
9. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And he didn't even play Week 18, did he? Nope. He sat that one out, right?
Yeah.
To rest up.
Yeah. Along with some other, you know, key players.
I mean, do you think that played a role?
It's hard to say for sure, but, you know, I'm sure the rest helped. I mean, he definitely looked energized out there. From the first snap, he was ready to go.
It's like trying to guard him in the playoffs. That's got to be. I wouldn't want that job.
No, no, thank you.
Well,
He's just so difficult to defend against. He's big, he's fast. His route running is just incredible.
Yeah.
And, you know, that connection with Mahomes, it's like they're speaking their own language.
Yeah.
It's poetry in motion out there.
It is. It is. All right, let's shift gears a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, we got to talk about the Texans. I know they lost, but it wasn't like they were totally blown out.
Right now, they were in it.
Yeah.
They had their chances. They just couldn't capitalize.
Right.
And, you know, this is a team that is now 0-6 in the divisional round.
Proof.
So, you know, it's got to be tough. I mean, to just keep running into that wall.
I know. It feels like they're always right there. They just can't quite get over the hump.
Yeah, yeah. And this game, you know, it really showed that. Some costly penalties, a couple of missed kicks. And then you've got their young quarterback, C.J. Stroud. He was under pressure the entire game.
Yeah, 8 sacks. 8 sacks. That's got to be demoralizing, especially for a young quarterback.
Yeah.
Was that more on the offensive line, or was the Chief defense just that good?
You know, I think it's a bit of both. I mean, the Chiefs defense, it's one of the best in the league. But the Texans offensive line, they definitely had some issues. Couldn't pick up the blitzes, you know, some miscommunications. It wasn't pretty.
Right.
And they were also missing, you know, 2 of their top receivers, Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell, with injuries.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So that had an impact, right?
Yeah.
I mean, fewer reliable targets for Stroud. The Chiefs can focus on shutting down the run.
So even with the depleted Texans team, Travis Kelce still, took over the game.
He did. It was like they had no answer for him. I mean, he was finding open space, making big catches, moving the chains. You got to wonder, does this guy just, turn it up in the playoffs?
I mean, maybe he's just a big game player.
Yeah.
You know, some guys, they just thrive under that pressure. Or maybe he just loves playing in January.
Could be.
Whatever it is, it's bad news for everybody else in the AFC.
Oh, yeah. It's not good.
It's not good.
It is not good. No, it's definitely not good for the rest of the AFC.
So let's shift gears a little bit here. We've talked about Kelce, we've talked about Mahomes, and we talked about some of those struggles for both teams. But for you, what was the most interesting thing about this game? What really stood out to you?
It's funny. The Texans near misses.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a blowout, right? They had some chances, some real opportunities. Like there was that drive in the third quarter. They're down by 10. Stroud connects with Nico Collins for a big game.
Yeah.
Gets him inside the Chiefs' 30-yard line.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
You think, okay, here we go. They're going to punch it in.
Yeah, for sure.
But then a holding penalty pushes him back, drop pass, stalls the drive. They end up settling for a field goal. And it's like those moments, those missed opportunities, that's where the game was won and lost, right there.
It's like they're so close, and then something always seems to trip them up.
Exactly.
Like one little thing.
That's the difference, right, between a good team and a championship team.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, even when they're not playing their best, they make the plays when they have to.
Right.
They capitalize on mistakes.
Yeah. And the Texans are still learning that. 8 sacks on Stroud. That's not just bad luck, right? There's more to that.
Oh, absolutely. We talked about the offensive line struggles, but, the Chiefs, they were doing a lot of disguised blitzes, bringing pressure from different angles. And Stroud, you got to give him credit. The kid showed some guts. He extended plays. He tried to make something happen.
He was tough. I'll give him that.
But, experience matters, right?
Yeah.
Mahomes, he sees that blitz coming. He knows where to go with the ball. Boom, right away. Stroud is still, he's developing that instinct. And without Diggs and Dell, he's got fewer options.
Right. So it sounds like if the Texans want to take that next step, they got to fix that offensive line in the offseason.
No doubt. You got to protect the quarterback. But listen, this is a young team. There's a lot of talent there.
Yep.
Stroud, he could be a star.
Yeah. All right. So big picture here.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, they move on. They're looking as good as ever.
Yeah.
What does this mean for them going into the AFC Championship game? What are we looking at here?
Well, they're the favorites, right? There's no question. Mahomes playing at an MVP level. Kelce is probably, you could argue he's the best tight end in the league.
Yeah.
And, their defense, they're not flashy or anything, but they get it done.
They're solid.
They're solid. They get it done.
But, they're not invincible, right? We saw some things today.
That's true. And that offensive line thing, keep an eye on that. They're going to be facing, a tough opponent in the AFC Championship, whether it's the Bills or the Ravens.
So what should we be watching for in that game? What are, the key matchups?
If it's the Bills, it's all about stopping Josh Allen, right? The guy can beat you with his arm. He can beat you with his legs. So the Chiefs' defense, they got to contain him. And, offensively, you got to keep Mahomes upright. If the Bills' pass rush gets to him, it could be a long day.
And if it's the Ravens?
Well, the Ravens defense is built to stop the run, and they've got some talented corners who could maybe match up with Kelce. The Chiefs are going to have to get creative on offense, maybe use the running backs in the passing game a little bit more.
Right.
And they're going to have to find a way to slow down Lamar Jackson. The guy's a one-man wrecking crew.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He is.
So it sounds like we're in for another just awesome AFC Championship game.
Oh, yeah. No matter who it is, it's going to be a battle.
Yeah.
And, that's what's so great about the playoffs, right? Anything can happen.
So before we wrap up, I want to go back to something you said earlier about, the Texans, those near misses, those moments where the game could have gone the other way. It really makes you think about that fine line between winning and losing, especially in the playoffs.
No doubt. Every play matters.
Yeah.
Every decision, every execution.
Yeah.
And against a team like the Chiefs, you can't let those opportunities slip away.
Yeah. And for the Chiefs, it's a reminder that even when they don't play their best game, they still find a way to win.
Right. They've got the experience. They've got the talent.
Yeah.
And, it can be pretty frustrating to play against that.
I bet. So what would you say, from your perspective, what's the biggest takeaway for the Texans, as they head into the offseason?
They got to learn from those mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Got to look at those near misses, figure out what went wrong, and work on those areas. They've got the talent, but they need that. They need that killer instinct. They got to be able to seize the moment when it matters most.
And for the Chiefs, I mean, what's their biggest challenge?
Staying hungry, right. They've been to the top of the mountain. They know how to win, but, complacency, it can creep in.
Yeah.
They got to maintain that edge, that drive to keep proving themselves.
Right.
Even as the dynasty grows.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? You get a young team on the rise trying to break through, and then you get this veteran team at the peak of their powers.
It's the essence of competition.
Yeah.
That's why we love the NFL.
All right, well, we've covered a lot today. From Mahomes' incredible performance to Kelce just dominating, the Texans struggling, the Chiefs continuing their success. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
All right, I'm listening.
So we talk about the X's and O's, the strategy, the talent. But what about the mental side of the game? The pressure, the expectations.
That's a great point. We don't talk about that enough.
Yeah, it's easy to overlook. I mean, these players are under so much pressure to perform, especially in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
So as we look ahead to the AFC Championship game, I think it's important to consider not just, who has the better players or the better game plan, but who's tougher mentally.
Yeah, that mental toughness, the ability to stay focused and composed under pressure, that can be the difference.
And you can't really measure that, right? In the stats or the rankings.
It's that intangible quality.
Right, that separates the champions from, everyone else.
The heart of a champion. And that's why these playoff games are so unpredictable, right?
Right.
And so compelling.
It really is. It's like that edge, that mental edge, it can just elevate a team, push them beyond their limits. When we were talking about Kelce and his dominance in the playoffs, it got me thinking, what is going on in the mind of a guy like that? What makes him just perform at that level game after game, with all that pressure?
It's a great question. And it makes me think about, something that we talk about a lot, which is the difference between talent and performance.
Right.
Talent will get you in the door. But it's that mental toughness, that belief that you have in yourself. That's what allows you to just perform at your best consistently, especially when the stakes are high.
Yeah. And it's not just the individual players, right? It's the whole team. It's their mentality.
The culture.
Yeah, the culture, how they built that culture. That plays a huge role, right?
Yeah.
And how they deal with pressure and adversity.
For sure. I mean, think about the Chiefs, right? They've had some challenges, over the years, but they always seem to bounce back. They just have this winning mentality. It's a credit to their leadership. I mean, both on the field and in the coaching staff.
It's like that next man up mentality, right? Doesn't matter who's injured, what kind of obstacles they got to face. They believe in the system, they trust each other, and they keep going.
That's exactly it. And that's what makes them so tough to beat. I mean, it's not just about the talent, on the roster. It's about their will to win, that belief that they can overcome anything.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave the listeners with this. Just, pay attention to that mental game as we move through the playoffs. Watch how teams respond to those tough moments, how they handle the pressure. Can they keep it together when things get tough? I mean, those are the things that often decide who's going to be the champion.
Yeah, because in the end, it's not always the team with the best players, right?
Right.
It's the team that wants it more, that's willing to dig deeper, to push harder, to get over those mental hurdles when it really counts.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave it there.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll be back next week to break down more of the biggest games and stories in the world of sports. But until then, keep on exploring, keep on questioning, and keep on diving deep.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what